We've talked a lot about MAiD in class, and I thought that with the addition of MAiD Track 2, just about anyone could get MAiD for a chronic illness. Let's define MAiD. MAiD is a two-track healthcare service we now provide in Canada. Track 1 is for when death is reasonably foreseeable. Track 2 is the solution to a not reasonably foreseeable death. This allows individuals to prevent themselves from having a much lower quality of life for an extended period of time. I think this is a good thing. And even with MAiD being as controversial as it is, particularly Track 2, I can't see much of an argument against its use for some degenerative diseases. Things like ALS, FA, Alzheimer's. These are all diseases for which there is no cure, and people can survive for decades. I thought these were exactly the kind of things that MAiD Track 2 was for, but as it turns out, Alzheimer's specifically is not so simple. Going back to MAiD's eligibility requirements, at first glance, an Alzheimer's patient seems like the perfect candidate. Assuming they've got a health card, being 18 is a given, and we all know from at least one personal experience that Alzheimer's is pretty nasty and definitely irremediable. It's serious, it's incurable, and it causes considerable suffering. But here's the problem. These 2 points somewhat contradict each other in this case. Since Alzheimer's causes dementia, the advanced state of the disease leads to a patient that is unable to make healthcare decisions, as most patients are diagnosed with the disease in the mild dementia stage. This ends up leaving people with no access to MAiD for this particularly terrible illness. With some digging, I found that Bill C-7 has influenced this particular problem. It allows for consent to be given for MAiD before the actual date it's provided, giving those who are lucky enough to catch it early or have a family history a chance to decide they want it before they lose too much cognitive ability. However, as I just said, most people are diagnosed in the mild dementia stage, and in my source, that is described as having problems making sound judgments, among other things. So I've learned from this research, as well as asking a friend who's a primary healthcare physician in London, Ontario, it seems that most often people can't get MAiD with this disease. But isn't Track 2 exactly for diseases like this, where patients maybe don't want to subject themselves or their loved ones to the gradual degeneration of health to an eventual certain death? I think we need a clause specifically for cognitive degenerative disease that either allows for some nuance with the capable of making decisions criteria, or to maybe let a family member give consent for MAiD in these specific situations. I don't know what the right answer is, but I do think that degenerative cognitive illness should somehow be specifically addressed in the law.